With the shelter here, the work I've done is with quite a few other folks who've kind of been working at the shelter and or volunteers. We've, for about 2 years, been trying to get a policy to pass where trans women could stay in housing. Technically, it makes me want to vomit, but we're a women's organization, and we serve, our mission statement says something along the lines of violence against women. And that historically has meant an unspoken vagina rule. So we've been pushing for that to get changed. And we finally this year, after 2 years, were told that, yeah, it's changed, that now trans women can stay in housing, whether they've had hormones or not, whether are pre or post-op or any of that conversation, whatever. If they identify as women, they can stay, which is then really interesting for queer folks who may be female assigned. What is that? Our boss isn't ready for that conversation, but so basically we've pushed through this policy. That's finally happened. We had to go through our board and our executive director. We've done a bunch of trainings. I've done a total of, I think, 4 trainings for folks on just the conversation of trans, and we've had other outside folks come in and done staff surveys and a lot of just kind of groundwork of meeting people where they're at while also trying to push them to be something else.
Yeah. You said it's taken 2 years. What are some of the challenges that you faced along the way of that?
Folks just generally being transphobic. I mean, just really not understanding the concept, or always saying this is just a new kid thing or youth thing, and not getting that no, it's not, and knowing the town we live in is really a hub for the state of Indiana in terms of trans folks. Even though there's not an awesome trans community, it's definitely a place that folks look for acceptance. We, more than any other shelter, really should be leading the way. And I think there's a lot of comment of, since there's no national mandate you have to, folks are well, we're not breaking the law, so we can be slow in this conversation, is a lot of my, what I hear. It's also been really hard. I've definitely transformed the way I present because of it, realizing when I first started and I looked much more queer and I had a dykey haircut and dressed differently and whatever, I presented myself differently, it was a lot harder for them to relate to me or have the conversation. Whereas now I present really femme at work, and I grew my hair out and I wear makeup a lot to work, and yeah, I tell my roommates and I talk about it as me getting in drag. I just get dressed in drag to go to work and do that for 40 to 60 hours a week, and then go home and feel like a person again. But I think a lot of it has just been really insulting while having to be in the closet the whole time. So I feel had I not had to be in the closet the whole time, it might have been easier, but since people saw me as a woman, they thought they could say more fucked up things to me. I wouldn't be affected, or that I'm just really distantly interested in trans people or something, and that it's not a personal connection thing.
Do you feel you wish that they had known that, though?
No, because then it would be harder on me if they knew my personal politics or my personal how I identify, because then I would have to face them in a different way. Or it's not at me, and then I can still create those personal relationships with those people that help in sway. I don't know, so much of what I think about on a day-to-day basis is pick your battles. If I can convince these people to love me and care about me, and then tell them this is really important to me, they have a little bit more stake in believing it, I feel Whereas if I'm just this if I'm just not a person, I'm just I'm not trying to connect with them or relate to them in any way, but I'm just really adamant about trans politics, they don't seem to hear me in the same way. Which I feel I walked in trying that route and quickly realized, oh, you need a way to see me as a person, which sucks. But oh, being queer means I'm not a person to you or something, or just and you can't read me, so that's too hard for you to empathize or something. But yeah, it's been hard, and it sucks because I can't help but draw that implication to if it was a survivor walking in the door who wanted shelter, if you couldn't read them, will you turn them away? What does that look like for my coworkers? And that's really scary to me, to know that if I was in that situation, they might turn me away from shelter. It's hard to work in an organization, put your heart into serving folks when it probably wouldn't serve you.
Yeah. what has happened when you've seen like gender variant people like come through?
Hilariously, most of my coworkers are just oblivious. Like, I mean, there have been numerous residents who come out to me and ask me not to tell their case manager. I have a poster in my office that very openly talks about trans issues, and I did that on purpose. Like, I mean, that was a strategic move, so folks will come out to me or come out as gay or whatever, like, feeling like, I feel like I can tell you this, is always how it's said, and I'm like, door's closed, you can just talk, like, you don't need to whisper, but I mean, it's scary. They're worried they're gonna lose their housing. So, like, folks will come out to me and I'll just keep it quiet. I won't say anything unless, like, yeah, no, I've never told them that, I guess. And we've had problems, especially with the crisis line, or, like, hotline, or crisis hotline, with folks who have voices that don't seem to go along with the gender they're telling the, like, hotline staff person they are, has been a problem, and folks have definitely gotten really insulted, and it's been a huge barrier to folks getting services in a sad way.
Yeah.
And it always makes me question how I talk, and like, or like how my friends talk, and just thinking about if my friends are in situations of violence, I would want them to like be able to seek shelter, because no matter how much like we have communities that are safe, a lot of like folks I work with are in a situation where yeah, they have options to stay with family or friends, but they're not safe enough, so they need to stay in a building with crazy locked doors and like 24-hour surveillance, and knowing that like queer folks that might not be extended to is pretty upsetting.
Yeah.